Ladies and gents, welcome to the show. I'm Neil Pikcup, and as you can probably see, I'm stood here with Jerry Cadorette, the Ginger Dread Man, the Brokeback Mountain. Big Daddy, call him what you want. One thing this guy's known for is being one of the best super heavyweights in the world, and for being maybe, arguably, the very best dead wrist presser ever to do it. And that's what you're here to focus on. Jerry has kindly agreed to give us a bit of a walkthrough, to give us an understanding of the move that he uses so effectively against the biggest, most powerful arm wrestler in the world. Jerry, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you.
So, a little bit of background on the dead wrist press. A lot of techniques in arm wrestling are based on taking away the hand, capitalizing on the hand, making sure that you have hand dominance. This is the one technique where that sort of goes out of the window, Jerry. You really don't care if a world-class top roller takes your hand and wrist. The game is far from over. In fact, it's exactly where you want it to be.
Correct.
I wanted to understand, really, for the folks at home watching this, just give us a bit of an indication. When you first come to the table and we take grip for the dead wrist press, what are the first things you're looking at? Are you concentrating mostly on the position of your hand? Are you focusing mostly on your body position?
I'm looking at when I go up to the table, right, and we're gonna lock up. I want to make sure I get my elbow up as far as possible. I can get here. And then I like to post up as high, so when I get the grip, I'm focusing on, as you know, I put my leg up.
Yes.
Right? So and put my leg up.
And this is used for leverage.
Right. For me, it's like a slingshot, because normally if your leg's up, you're pointed in this direction. Mm-hmm. So my left foot points this way. Yeah. Right? And then it forces me to turn my body this way. Right? So if my arm is up front, right, and now I've got my shoulder back, right, and I'm in a contorted position like this, the key is going to be my fingers, right?
So just to focus on the gripping element there, are you driving the lower palm high? So you're increasing the height with the lower palm and the little finger knuckle?
Yes.
Okay.
Holding on tight with my fingers right here, because the object here is if we're going to end up in a dead wrist press, right? It's usually because my opponent is going to come back and go into a top roll, which I'm going to give up. I'm going to give them that. Give them the wrist. I'm going to give them the wrist in order for me to get into my position here, because as you'll notice here, would say we're at 90 degrees. Yep. But as soon as I get over here, right, my wrist or my arm is now at like 75, 80 degrees, right?
So just to sort of break that down, what Jerry's actually done there is he's gained a couple of inches, literally by dropping his wrist. The top roller can actually start to take that wrist, but look what's happening there. He's gaining an additional 2 inches of motion, and by doing so, you seem to be engaging your shoulder.
And what's happening now is my wrist is now in front of my shoulder. So my shoulder's acting as a blocking component. And again, as a slingshot coming in, right, my shoulder's locking this way. Here, I feel super comfortable, right? So when I'm in this position, the idea is to keep driving, and they're gonna usually keep pulling out. Yep. No one stays in tight because they'll go down quick.
So they're separating, and in doing so,
right, I'm giving up more hand. Yeah. Right, and again, I'm picking up more leverage with my wrist, more inches down,
and you're almost turning them onto a sort of a over pronated position. So effectively, you're losing the ability to keep control of your own hand, because as Jerry's driving into me there, I can feel that my fingers are being forced away, forced open. And if anybody who's done a curl in the gym, if you've got a positive wrist position, both slightly supinated or directly straight, you feel great. The moment you try and pronate it and go into a reverse curl, your power probably halves.
So from here, if they continue to come to the back of the pad, which a real good top roller is going to do, because he wants to pull me as far away from my shoulder as possible, ideally I'd love to stay in right here, right, so I could finish, because then I got my shoulder pressed on top. But over here, now it's the pain that is going to go in your arm, right? Because with me pushing down like this and you're trying to come out of it, it's a matter of time. I ride it out, but I keep trying to push, and I wait for the breathing.
So you're very conscious of that timing element there.
Absolutely. You know, as soon as the person goes to breathe, that's when you push it again.
Yes, yeah.
So as soon as they go to breathe, you push again. And then if you're getting tired, what I'll end up doing is I'll try to push them off the back of the pad, because we'll be locked in tight together, and these pads are longer, so a little bit more difficult to do. But just sitting there and trying to ride it out, then it becomes a game of stamina. Who's going to ride it out the longest?
So if I'm reading that correctly there, Jerry, a lot of this technique is also about trying to put your opponent into a position that they are awkward. They're in a really bad, sort of, they can't get the body position that they need to apply the pressure. So as long as they're feeling the pressure from you, and also you're consciously putting them into an awkward, ugly position.
Right, right. And it's, ideally, I mean, everyone knows I do it. And it's a tough thing to fight as you're an opponent coming in, not having gone against it. And even people I've gone against. I mean, look at how many people I've done it with, right? I beat, I think, everybody.
It's extremely difficult to counter, really difficult to counter.
Right.
Because the thing is, you've got access. If a guy wants to jump in, it's going to be effective there, and you're going to go into, it doesn't have to be broken back, you're going to just get in with that shoulder and straight shoulder press them to the pad.
Believe me, ideally, I would love it for the match to go,
closed
for them
wrist.
not to go,
Yeah.
closed wrist like this.
Wrist.
And here, I feel, I don't think I can lose.
Yeah.
Right? But ideally, I mean, as you've seen, like when
the level of commitment you do that with is, I mean, it's literally, I've been on the receiving end of this with Jerry when we've pulled, and it is literally like, I mean, in our match, I was okay on the first, got a start, managed to get away with a little bit of speed. As soon as the strap came out, he smiled at me. The second start felt like somebody drove a train through my arm. It's a weird feeling, it really is.
And I'm going to tell you this too, for the dead wrist press, when you're in a strap, it is super an advantage to me, right? Because now I no longer have to hold on tight with my fingers.
Sure.
Right? I just make sure the strap's super tight. I keep the buckle below. I mean, the strap below my wrist.
You go sort of 2 inch down,
right?
inch down.
So when I'm going, I can rely strictly on the strap to hold here.
Yeah.
Right? And then it just enables me to feels like I can push so much harder with that strap there. So ideally, if I can slip, it's great.
When you're in the sort of, let's say I make a top roll, I hit, you drive, and I get a top roll, I get a pretty good position.
Yep.
Is there a time there where you'll consciously lat drag in order to create separation there?
I have to every now and then, because if I get pulled to the front over here, right, I got to try to pull back, right? And which I got to get a little bit better at, because I commit so much and I push so hard. And when my leg's up that high, pulling it back makes it tougher for me, because if my leg's up here and I'm pushing this way, for me to pull back, it's almost like I'm going to make myself weak and vulnerable. So it's got to be kind of like as I'm pushing, right? Then it's got, you know, slow little pullbacks.
Incremental gains. So it's half an inch, it's small micro adjustments. Just one question on that, mate. I mean, a lot of people would think, and looking at this, you would think that it works well against a guy with a shorter arm. I can imagine it's really effective with the long arm guys, though, because you're going to get a greater degree of separation from a puller like that.
Absolutely. I mean, like, look at what me and Travis, we went together, 10 times, I've won 9, right? So I think where he is the guy that comes straight to the back, and where he got the advantage was on the WL pad, which, you know, is a little bit longer.
Sure. In terms of sort of the setups for this, mate, and in terms of the key, if you were to break down key training methods to improve the press and key elements that you need to work, and if we broke that down in sort of hand and wrist, tricep, speed, what are those key elements that a guy should work on in order to maximize their ability to put this move down effectively?
Table time's super important, right? And I mean, we can say that that's one you can't go without. But exercises that I do that help me, like to strengthen my fingers, I do the you know, the plates.
Yes.
45-pound plates. Flat side against my hand.
Yeah.
My thumbs on the groove side.
Yeah.
Hold it out, and I try to hold it at 45 degrees as long as I can.
Yeah.
Right? It gets difficult, starts to shake like 40 seconds, 45 seconds, but it doesn't sound like a lot of weight, but that 45-pound plate is so big, right? And doing it, it works on my fingers. Huge, huge, huge. Which is the same thing if I'm this way. Look at my hand.
I understood,
right?
yeah.
So boom.
So you're getting that similar.
Yeah. Then I do the pull-ups on a 2x4 with just my fingertips as well. Right, so just my fingertips over, pull-ups, and I'm not small, I'm 330, right? So doing a pull-ups, and I hold myself at 45 degrees. Same position, right? Arm wrestling position.
Sure.
Right, boom, 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 right? Hold myself. Then I do the tricep extensions, and then I do the skull crushers, right?
So very, very intense tricep
driven on my tricep.
focus.
Tricep is probably the biggest component of that press.
As well as the driving strength you're getting from that tricep, is that about joint stability as well? Do you find that it stabilizes your elbow a great deal more?
I do. I feel like it it gives me more control, right? And it does, it keeps it stabilized. And I'm a big bench presser too. So for that, and what I do is I don't go super heavy anymore, right? Well, I do heavy weight, but just not super heavy. I'll do like 225 for 60. Then I do 315 for 25, and I end with 405 for 10, right? Seldom do I ever go over 405. If I do, it's just to show off or something, because I don't feel like I get anything out of it. I'm more about I want to build the strength and stamina, strength and stamina, strength and stamina, because I'm obviously I'm not a big
outlast
cardio.
your opponent.
Right, and I'm not going to outlast them on the track, right? So that we're gonna throw that right out right now, right? But with the weights, that's where I'm super strong, right? So in doing that, and I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but 60 times at 225, your muscles fatigue, your muscles get swollen, your muscles get like tired. And I feel like I can rest it on my chest. I got to the point now, I used to do with one hand on the bench. I can do 225 with one hand. And I'll tell you, it is super hard. The hardest part about it is balancing it.
225, one-handed.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky. For me, I try to do off-the-wall stuff, right, to shock my muscles and switch it up and try to do different things. And so I don't repeat everything exactly the same. So one week I'll do one thing, another week I'll do another week. So if I do 3 different weeks of exercises, I feel like I don't get into that same routine, and I feel like my body acts differently. Right? It's probably in my head, but it works.
Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Cadorette, we hope you got some valuable tips there on how to perform the deadlift press like the Gingerbread Man.